The night my husband introduced her to our friends, I was still wearing my wedding ring. He didn't even hesitate. He didn't look ashamed. He didn't lower his voice. He just placed his hand on the small of her back and said, "This is Victoria. She's been helping me with the company." Helping, I remember the way the room shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like everyone had been waiting for permission to accept something they already suspected. And I stood there, holding a glass of champagne I didn't remember picking up. My name is Alina Mercer, and that was the night my life was publicly downgraded. We had built everything together, or at least that's what I believed. When Daniel and I started Mercer Analytics, it was from our apartment kitchen. I handled operations. He handled clients. I stayed up nights reviewing contracts. I wrote proposals he delivered like they were born from his brain. I believed in partnership. He believed in leverage. I didn't realize that until much later. But that night when he laughed at something she whispered in his ear, I felt it. The fracture, I walked toward him calmly, slow steps, measured breath. "I didn't know we were bringing guests," I said. He smiled, that same polished, investor-ready smile. "Don't make this awkward, Alina. Don't make this awkward." As if I was the disruption, as if my existence was the tension. Victoria extended her hand to me. "Hi, I've heard so much about you." Of course she had. I shook it. Cold fingers, perfect manicure, zero guilt. "Only the outdated parts, I'm sure," I replied. Daniel's eyes flashed warning. That subtle look he used when clients were watching. "Behave," I smiled, because I understood something in that moment. He thought I was trapped. Marriage, shared assets. Shared reputation? Shared history. He thought humiliation would weaken me. He didn't realize humiliation activates me. That night after the guests left, he didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He didn't even try to hide it. "I've outgrown this version of us," he said, "us, like we were a product line. Victoria understands expansion. She understands vision." I stood across from him in the kitchen where we once built dreams. "So I don't?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer directly. He didn't need to. Silence is confirmation when arrogance is involved. "You've been comfortable," he continued. "The company needs sharper edges." Sharper edges. I built the contracts. I secured the early clients. I negotiated the first funding round, but suddenly I was comfortable. I looked at him for a long moment. "You think she built you," I said softly. He exhaled, impatient. "This isn't about sides. It's exactly about sides." He stepped closer. "I want a separation. Not emotional, not temporary, legal, clean, efficient." I nodded slowly. "Okay." He blinked. He expected tears. He expected bargaining. He expected desperation. Instead, I walked past him, calm, and went to my office. Because here's what Daniel forgot: I never stopped reading the paperwork. When we incorporated Mercer Analytics, Daniel insisted on majority visibility. He liked being the face. He liked control. So I let him shine publicly. But I structured the backend, every operational clause, every contingency line, every silent protection. There was one clause he skimmed, one paragraph buried under acquisition language. In the event of marital dissolution tied to executive misconduct, operational majority reverts to founding operations partner. That was me. He signed it without reading carefully, because he trusted me, and arrogance makes people lazy. The next week, he moved into a condo downtown. Victoria began appearing in company meetings. Not introduced as anything official, just present. She spoke too confidently for someone new. She interrupted department heads. She suggested streamlining, which really meant cutting the people loyal to me. I watched quietly. I listened carefully. I documented everything, because revenge isn't emotional, it's procedural. Then came the board meeting. Daniel announced restructuring. Alina will be transitioning out of daily operations. Transitioning. Like I was outdated software, he looked at me expecting reaction. I folded my hands calmly. "Before that vote proceeds," I said, "I'd like legal to clarify clause 14 billion. His smile faltered. Our legal counsel opened the binder. I watched Daniel's face as the words were read aloud. Marital dissolution tied to executive misconduct. Operational majority reverts to founding operations partner. Silence. Victoria's expression shifted first. Confusion, then calculation. Daniel leaned forward. "That clause isn't applicable." "It is," I said evenly. "You filed separation citing personal involvement with a direct strategic consultant." I let that sink in. You tied personal misconduct to executive leadership. The room changed temperature. Suddenly, I wasn't comfortable. I was precise. The board requested recess. Victoria left the room with Daniel. I remained seated, calm. Because this wasn't revenge yet, this was reclamation. By the end of that week, I had controlling operational authority, not publicly. Quietly, Daniel still held CEO title, but decisions required my signature. And he didn't realize how suffocating that would feel. Daniel tried intimidation first. Late-night calls, threats of reputation damage. You'll ruin everything? No, I replied. You're just not used to accountability. Victoria attempted charm, private meeting requests. Let's not make this ugly, she said. It already is, I answered. What they didn't understand, I wasn't trying to destroy the company. I was protecting it from him. Then the clients began calling me directly. Apparently, Daniel had started shifting funds toward a new expansion strategy. Unapproved, unreviewed, risky. I audited everything, and that's when I found it. Misallocated capital, personal luxury expenses disguised as business development, condo payments routed through consulting accounts, Victoria's compensation tied to performance benchmarks that didn't exist. It wasn't massive fraud. But it was reckless, and reckless leadership collapses eventually. I didn't expose it immediately. I waited, because timing determines impact. At the next board review, I presented a clean financial report. Then I paused. There's one more thing, I said. I projected the expense trail. Line by line, documented, verified. Daniel's jaw tightened. Victoria avoided eye contact. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply asked. Would anyone like clarification on these expenditures? The board didn't need drama. They needed stability. And stability wasn't sitting across from them. It was standing. Calm, measured, prepared. Daniel was removed as acting financial authority that afternoon. Still CEO in title, but powerless in execution. And that's when he finally understood. He hadn't replaced me. He'd triggered me. Rumors spread. They always do. Investors noticed tension. Employees sensed shifts. Victoria stopped attending meetings. Daniel became defensive, then desperate. He attempted to buy my shares. Low offer. Insulting. You'll regret dragging this out, he said. I'm not dragging anything, I replied. I'm documenting. He leaned closer. You're doing this because you're hurt. I smiled slightly. No, I'm doing this because you underestimated me. That was the first time he looked uncertain. Because arrogance collapses when it meets evidence. The divorce finalized quietly. No dramatic courtroom battle, no screaming headlines, but the board voted unanimously 2 weeks later. Daniel was transitioned out. Official statement. Leadership restructuring aligned with long-term strategic vision. Translation, we choose stability. Victoria disappeared from the company entirely. No dramatic exit, just gone like she was a phase, and I became interim CEO. Not because I demanded it, because I had already been doing the job. 6 months later, Mercer Analytics posted its strongest quarter in history. No flashy expansion, no reckless risks, just disciplined growth. Transparent leadership, operational clarity. One evening, I ran into Daniel at a charity event. He looked smaller, not physically, energetically, like someone who finally understood consequences. Elena, he said carefully. You won. I tilted my head slightly. This was never a competition. He gave a weak smile. You destroyed me. I held his gaze. No, you dismantled yourself. I just stopped protecting you. Silence, heavy, honest. Victoria wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. She wasn't built for collapse. She was built for momentum, and momentum without foundation doesn't last. That night I went home alone, not lonely. There's a difference. I poured a glass of wine, stood by the window, and thought about the night he introduced her. The humiliation, the dismissal, the way he said I was comfortable. He was right about one thing. I had been comfortable believing loyalty was mutual. Comfortable thinking partnership meant permanence. Now I'm not comfortable, I'm aware, and awareness is power. If you're listening to this, if someone replaced you publicly, if someone made you feel outdated, if someone assumed you were too soft to fight back, remember this. You don't need to scream, you don't need to expose immediately, you don't need chaos, you need clarity, you need patience, you need documentation. Because the most devastating revenge is success they can't access anymore. Daniel thought I was replaceable. He confused presence with power. He confused charm with competence. He confused silence with weakness. He was wrong, and when he finally realized it, I didn't need to say anything at all. Because the position he tried to take from me was already mine.